Hello friends, how are you today? I'm very excited to tell this story that I have for you about the staircase image on the Schumann. What is the staircase? Who uses it? Where does it go? We've seen the staircase image twice on the Schumann's chart recently, and so I think it's important. And rather than doing an analysis, today I will focus solely on the intuitive interpretation, and I want to tell an interesting story. The reason why is because the staircase that I see on the Schumann chart is it's like an exact image of a spiritual tool that exists in the non-physical. And I can't help but choose to take the opportunity to explain this spiritual and energetic tool and talk about it and tell the story of using this tool myself. Because there's something here, there's something meaningful about this staircase showing up now and what it's used for and what it is in the spiritual, in the non-physical, because the non-physical is real, it's alive, and it influences us, and we influence it, all right? We create it, and we engage with it unconsciously often. But as we awaken, as we expand our consciousness, we are able to come to new understandings about what is going on in our personal lives and in our world. I am very passionate about this topic because I think it's critical to human beings taking a hold of their own future and choosing what the outcomes for their lives will be. This is why I spend so much time thinking about these topics and engaging with them. And there's a miracle for me here too. The miracle is that somehow I just ended up doing this. And I can't explain exactly how it happened. But I'll tell you, it started with my engagement with the sky. And this image that I'm showing you now is one of my photographs. And this was a very special day. And I encourage you, as I did this recently in a video, I encourage you to pause the video here and breathe in and out with this sky energy in the photograph that's on this screen. The reason why is this is a photo of extremely expanded, high energy. It is incredibly expanding to the energy field. Now, when you meditate with this, if you pause and you breathe in and out with this, I'm going to explain what is happening. What is happening is this energy is presenting an energetic template. Your mental understanding may not get it, but your energy system does. And so when you visually connect with the image, it communicates to your energy system. What happens is it presents a template, okay? And you are invited to see what it would be like if your field copied this template. And let me tell you something, it feels, for me, it feels really good. So this idea, okay, so when you create a template, where is the energy coming from? It's coming from within you. It's coming from your life force. And to me, that is the energy of the soul. That is the energy of the soul. And so what I'm saying is that when you engage with this photograph, okay, for example, You aren't drawing anything necessarily from it. You aren't engaging with any non-physical beings that are potentially in this photograph or that you may be able to perceive somehow. Okay? It's simply a template. And the reason that this is so important is because, in my view, it's important for us as human beings to learn to be energetically sovereign, energetically responsible and fully present in every part of our living system. We have an energy system. It consists of our body, all that is our body, and the energy that comprises all the physicality of our body. And it comprises the non-physical that emanates from us. And it's very important to learn how to claim your authority in this space that is yours. And it's going to relate to the story that I'm going to tell, because to engage with the non-physical safely is to be energetically sovereign. Okay? And when I say that, what is a sovereign? A sovereign is a king or a queen. Okay? And this is talked about in the Bible as well. Okay? There's a story in Samuel about there's a story in Samuel in the Bible about the king passing. And so the king communicates with God and says, and essentially God instructs the king to ask the people, do they want a new king or do they want God as their king? Okay. And the people want a human representative, a human king. So the people in the story ask for someone between them and God. And God says, well, the outcome of that isn't going to be very good. Okay. So when we make the individual choice to say God is my king or queen, okay, if you're male or female, you might, it's always both, because God is, the creator is all that is, masculine and feminine all together, okay? And if we're incarnated, just generally, I'm just going to generally talk about this, but if we're a female, we have a king with us anyway. If we're a male, we have a queen with us anyway. I don't want to get into the details of that, but it's so the inner sovereign is of the divine. It's that aspect of the creator that you are, the living soul that you are, is the king or queen, right? That aspect of God that guides you individually. How precious and perfect is that? It's so incredible. So it's so incredible to even know that we can have this relationship. So, as I said, this is important to the energy story that I'm about to tell. And it's important in terms of developing spiritual maturity, right? Rather than relying on that which is outside ourselves, which may or may not be an accurate reflection. It may be a truth and it may be a lie. It may be attempting to show us a beneficial template, or it may be attempting to influence us from its own selfish aims. Okay? When we allow ourselves to be guided from within, then it doesn't matter what the intentions are of that which is outside of ourselves. Because if I look at this photograph, for example, okay, immediately I have a sense of, is this in alignment with my highest good, right? To pause it and breathe with the photograph. Yes, for me it would be yes. Okay, for you it may or may not be yes, okay, as an answer. But you can use your human senses to take responsibility for how you engage. If it was a different sort of picture, okay, let me go to the next picture. This may or may not feel as good, right, to us. And I may say, no, I don't want to engage with this. I can look at it, but I will not copy this template of energy in my field. Isn't that interesting? Do you see how now we've made a conscious choice about the non-physical, about our own energy field, right? And so here, essentially, nothing can cause you, force you to do something. You create it all from within. That's the big secret here. And this is important to remove fear. Okay, because that light that is within us, the presence of God, the presence of the Creator, and when I say God, I mean the Most High, the Creator of all that is, the Creator of the universe, unconditional love, from which the Christ emanates, okay, from which, Jesus Christ, for example, emanates. Christ is the avatar of the soul. So what have we learned, right? That we power ourselves with conscious choices by communing with the guidance of the divine within. We make a conscious choice of engaging not just in the physical, do I want to talk to a person or not, for example, but in the non-physical. Do I wish to create this template in my field or not? And this is key, because to engage with the non-physical and to be present around energy that does not feel like something you wish to copy in your energy field or in your life. Okay, it's patterns that you don't wish to copy. The way that you do that is by staying energetically sovereign, making a conscious decision, yes or no. And then simply by saying, no, I do not consent to create this, you can't be forced to create it. You can be tempted. You can be convinced. You could listen to a whole monologue about why you should or shouldn't do something, or perhaps it's an emotional call, right? Trying to guilt you or shame you or tell you how you'd be a good person if you did these things, right? Because that's all these emotional ploys are used to cause us to create energy in our field. But when we do that unconsciously, we are still using the God force that powers us. And so this is how we create our reality or not. We make the conscious choice. And you, as a living soul, incarnate in human form that is of the divine, okay, the form is of the divine, the soul is of the divine. This is my temple, my body right here that I'm touching right now, that I'm patting on my head here, for example. This is the home of the greater me. This is the home of my soul. This is where and who the king and queen commune with, right? The divinity that I am communes with me, the child. And so this is my responsibility. This is my opportunity. And this is the gift that we have been given. This is what free will is about. Okay, now, I just needed to give you that energetic understanding and discussion, and then now we can go into and look at the energetic structure on the Schumann, and then I want to tell you an interesting story. Okay, so before we start about the Schumann, if you could please, this is a reminder to like the video, subscribe to my channel if my work resonates with you. That really helps me with the algorithm. And it's a great way to say thank you, for us to engage a little bit like that. So thanks for doing that. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to put out an offer related to my next human energy workshop. This is going to be a course. I'm going to expand it from 6 weeks. It'll probably go 12 weeks, and it'll be lectures, and then I'll also offer little one-on-one opportunities, but I'm going to do it a little differently so that you don't have to actually attend it. In the past, in 2022, you've really had to be available at the time to really get the benefit out of the workshop. And I want this to be something where people can work on it on their own, where they can do it on their own time, or they can attend the live courses if that works for you timing-wise. So that's going to be a new opportunity for next year, and I may be able to announce it this week and give you an early sign-up. So we'll see how far that goes. Otherwise, I'll do that in early January, but that is coming. I just want to let you know. Okay, so we're talking about this image here, okay? And this is what I'm calling the staircase. This is the second time that this image has appeared on the chart. And I really took a look at how the data behind the image was moving and what it was doing to get confirmation on this, but I want to focus on the intuitive aspects of this and about how energy works today, because this is really up for me as being super important. So this won't be an analytical video. It will be a story about energy. So here's the deal. Okay, so here's the intraday chart for December 20th. This is the beginning of the day. And this green line here is at about at 20 hertz. This line here is about at 8 hertz, okay? And down here, where deep, deep dark blue, that goes from the mid-30s to 40 hertz. Now, what this does, this emulates, see, the Schumann resonance is in the same hertz range as human brain waves. Okay, so this is one of the reasons among many that I consider the Schumann to be a map of human consciousness, because 7.7 billion, or however many it is, people are really generating this energy all around the planet 24/7, in addition to all the other things that come together to make the Schumann. So I like to focus on that. And to me, the images that the chart makes tell a story. It's a human story. It's like our subconscious. Like if you could read a map of where the human collective is. So that's how I look at it. There's also other influences that cause me to interpret it that way, and I go over those in the beginner playlist. So it's interesting. So the staircase goes at an angle, as did the last one. And now we have this white. I'm just laughing because I'll just tell you what I thought. This is the guardian. See here? This is the guardian of the subconscious and the unconscious. So we're having protection here, okay, in the presence of this staircase. You see, the staircase, you could look at it as going, see, the 0 is up at the top of the chart. So you could look at it as going from 8 to probably 28, something like that, 28, 30. But as I believe I've mentioned, this staircase reminds me of an energetic structure that I have worked with in the non-physical. And in fact, when I looked at the data behind this, it confirmed to me that, for me, what this is about is it's a non-physical energetic structure. And it's actually not going left to right, it's going right to left. Okay, and that's why the guardian is here. Okay. And so I'm going to interpret it. I'm going to first interpret it right to left, and I will do an interpretation left to right as well. But okay, so what you have here is you have the high beta hertz. They relate with beta brain waves. So this is where we have our more complex thinking. Then we have our analytical thinking, and then we get into our observation here in the alpha ranges right here. So the subconscious would be about here, and then the unconscious. And so what's happening is we're engaging with this staircase in our thoughts, and then it's leading us into the subconscious. So what's going on here? What I've noticed lately, there's been a lot of activity in yellow all right, the yellow resonance. And the yellow resonance, in my view, represents the non-physical closest to the human being. Sort of the ranges of light, where we can't with our eyes see anything but air, okay? But there exists in the air, right? There exists energy, and it can have different forms. It can be positive or negative. And it could even be our emotions or our thoughts. Well, when I have worked with this staircase, okay, it has been related to non-physical entities. And I want to talk about that first, and then I will talk about the human experience, okay? Because what's happening here is, from a certain perspective, the energy is moving from the higher hertz into lower hertz backwards. I know that doesn't make sense from a linear perspective, but if there is no time, truly, then it does make sense. So I'm not going to explain all these concepts. I'm just going to tell the story, and you can let it sit with you and see what you think. Because I have had people tell me they listen to my videos over and over, and you will get it. You will get an understanding simply by being open to the concepts that I'm discussing. All right, so what's happening is as the energy moves from the right to the left, where we are being essentially put back to sleep, okay? So that's a process of retreat, of going back into the shadow, of going back into the subconscious. And here's the guardian, okay, watching the process. If it's us human beings, watching the process and essentially praying for us, looking after us. Now, what leads us to sleep? Okay, it's a series of offers. It's a series of offers that bring us into unconsciousness without us knowing. In other words, we aren't conscious of the strategy to bring us into the subconscious. We think that we're awake in this circumstance because we're engaging between the alpha brainwaves and the high beta, right? So that's our hey, I'm awake, alpha. I'm observing what's going on in the world around me. Low beta, I have my core basic thinking. Then I get a little bit analytical, right, with my mid-beta brainwaves. And then in the high beta, down here, I have complex thinking. So what's interesting is that I can have complex thinking and still be tricked into going into my subconscious and going back to sleep, because I might only be aware intellectually of information, but not strategy. I may only be aware of data, but not tactics. And so this is why, okay, that we could be at any range here and then be led back to sleep. Yeah. Yep. It's I'm feeling a little sadness about it, but also this is just the way of the world. So this is just what happens. The blessing is that we are becoming aware of this process. So the invitations, right, the offers to engage and fall back to in a way that causes us to fall back to sleep. They could be from living people. They could be from human people who engage with us unconsciously, but more often consciously, where the person is aware and has the capability to manipulate in this fashion. Many people are very smart this way. But it also could be from the non-physical, from non-physical entities that invite us, right, to engage with them, to walk with them back into unconscious agreements, whereby our energy gets trapped. Where does our energy get trapped? It gets trapped here. God is still with us. Okay, the white resonance. God is still with us here in the subconscious and in the unconscious. But it can be hard to get back out again, right? Until we have an awakening experience of some kind, again, the white resonance, and then we slowly, this could just be the journey of the red pills, for God's sakes. You know, we're sort of stuck in here. We may think we're smart, right? But we don't have a deeper understanding of the world until we engage, right, with divinity, and then we are led by our guidance, this represented by the white resonance here, out slowly by slowly into awakening. But the ultimate expansion is into the very high hertz on the chart, because once you get here into this deep blue, now you're in a spiritual awakening where you're actually starting to wake up to the presence of the divine in your life. And maybe you already were aware of God or had a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, or, you know, however you do that, however that works for you. Okay. So to go from this part of the chart, okay, but then to go into a spiritual awakening, that is a whole nother leap. And yet we are still always guided, right? So that is the basic journey here for the human being. When you move backwards, in my view, the energy on the chart, when we're looking backwards or moving to the left, we're moving back into the shadow of our own personality, acting from there even, living from there even, and then we're moving back into the subconscious, where we don't really, we're not really engaging with choices in a conscious way. Where we're engaging our higher self, our spiritual nature, right? Okay, so now here's the thing. A person can be having what appears to be a very simple life and be completely engaged and connected. It's, I tell this story. I was doing energy work in my church one day. This was a few years ago, and it was rocking, man. The energy was so good. And the building was actually, the energy was so high in the church that the building was creaking. It was pretty wild. And I can't remember the details of what was going on, but what I saw was one other person in the non-physical joined with me. Like we were both in light body doing the work while the church service was going on. And when I looked to see whose light body it was, I turned around and it was the homeless man who was attending service for, regularly. Of all the people in the church, the one person who stepped out in light body and who I sensed was literally an angel was this man. And everybody in the church thought they were helping him. But little did they know what his purpose really was, I suppose, at least in that moment. Okay, so now I want to tell you the story of the energetic structure that this represents. And this is a little bit longer video, but I'm going to break it into chapters so that you can easily go between the chapters if you wish, okay? So there are different kinds of mechanisms when you are going through the awakening process. And the concept of a staircase is an energetic structure. And when I say energetic structure, what I mean is that in the non-physical, there are repeating patterns, there are repeating geometries, there are repeating types of beings, types of experiences that everyone encounters. It's really fascinating, where I'm sure many of you have had this experience. You share something in the non-physical, and another person will say, oh my gosh, I experienced something so similar. So it's kind of like Plato's idea of, he had this idea that there was a realm in which all the archetypes existed, and then the perfect archetype existed, like of a chair or of a, whatever the creation is. And then on Earth, we attempt to emulate that on Earth and copy the divine archetype. Well, that's actually kind of a cool way of thinking of it. But he had this idea that there were essentially energetic structures in the non-physical. That's what I'm calling, how I am describing his idea of archetypes, right? It's an energetic structure, because he was specifically also saying that these archetypes were related to like physical objects and things. Nowadays, when we talk about archetypes, we're talking more about something conceptual. Okay, so with the staircase, there's different kinds. There's the staircase into the depths. And when I say that, I mean into the depths of our own subconscious. This can be a little scary, right? Because the reason it's scary when we are exploring our own truths is because sometimes it's painful to us, right? Because we've been through something that's painful, and then to explore it, to heal it, we have to face the pain again, and we can be afraid of doing that. Now, there are other structures of tunnels and staircases in the non-physical. I'm not going to go into that. That's not the topic of this conversation, okay? Those are very specific and not needing to be discussed at this time. All right, now another type of staircase would be a spiral staircase. And, the idea of energy spiraling upward or spiraling downward. Now, clearly the idea in this photo is of the energy spiraling upward, right? And there are many concepts that go with this, repeating time and timelines and things like this. But this is not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about an angled linear staircase, right? Like linear meaning going in sort of a line upward. There's also the idea of the Fibonacci spirals. In this case, this is a staircase that presents somewhat as a Fibonacci spiral as well. Now, this is the type of staircase that we are looking at in terms of an energetic structure in the non-physical that is not related to the personal journey. So this is just something in the non-physical. And what this can be used for is for exit from this realm. And this is how I have engaged with this structure. In other words, some of us are called to provide an exit from this realm to certain kinds of beings. Now, I haven't done this work in several years, but for a while I was called to provide exits. And when the exit forms, it looks like a staircase like this, okay? And the thing is that certain geometric structures attract certain kinds of entities, and then they feel comfortable on each step because the geometry fits what their comfort level is, and that is what assists them in exiting the realm, okay? And this work is done by people who have a calling for it. The grandmothers, the crones, the gatekeepers, maybe the watchers. There's different names for people who do this kind of work, and sometimes you're just called to do it for a certain time. as I was. I did it for a short time, and then I was done. I guess that everybody that needed to exit this way related to my job was done. And then I find what also happens is that we're called to do the work, and then someone else takes over the work. Like you get a chance to do that work, and then it becomes someone else's to do. And so the way that the work is done is that for it to produce no karma, right? So this is something that should only be done if you're specifically called, and it's your personal responsibility to know, right, that this is yours to do. Otherwise, this is just an informative discussion, right? But being in alignment with divine will through you is key. If you understand how to do that, you know. And it's something that I teach about in the Human Energy Workshop. But usually people who are called to do this kind of work, they just have a knowing about these things. Being in alignment with the highest good. Understanding how to just declare that and talk to, the divinity that you are aligned with, right? The divinity that you are within as a living soul, and to receive guidance and to, declare that what is done is in alignment with the highest good. I like to also call in angels, to escort whatever is leaving along the path. And, those entities that are leaving up the staircase, they're going on to a new adventure, right? They're complete with their earth adventure. And in some ways, these entities, what I have seen is that these are entities in the non-physical that are not human that I'm talking about, okay, that exit this way. I think that there are very specific instructions and processes for being able to be part of this realm. I'm talking about Earth, and then being able to exit the realm. And so this is one of the ways that certain types of what we viewed as non-physical entities, and I would say fourth dimension, maybe second dimension, I don't know, but definitely fourth dimension astral entities. Some of them may wish to, or may be called to exit this way. And part of the calling is to provide the geometric steps. And when you're called to do this, the staircase just appears. It's just, so at any rate, so they're going on to their next adventure. That's in God's hands. When you ask that this is aligned with God's will, the divine is driving the bus. The divine is making the choices. You become a facilitator, right? You become a facilitator. And asking for divine protection and divine assistance and divine guidance for the entire staircase, for those entities that are departing, so that everything is in alignment with the highest good and divine will. I don't know what that is, but when I declare it in alignment with the divinity within me, then that's what I am programming. That's what I am asking to occur through my relationship with divinity. And everything and everyone that participates has their own relationship, their own sovereign soul path, right? So when you do this in a way that's aligned with free will choice and divine guidance, then you're really just you're a facilitator. Everybody is powered by their own choices. And sometimes the choices, like through the use of the geometries, and the geometries are also co-created with the divine, right? So this is all in the non-physical now. Some of you may not fully understand what I'm talking about, and that's okay. All right, so you just get what you get out of it in alignment with your highest good, and that's what I hope for. That this is in alignment with the highest good of all, and that somehow this is a benefit to those who are listening. Okay, so by asking for divine will to be infused in this process, it elevates the process. Now, I haven't experienced the staircase, okay, for years. I haven't experienced, well, maybe just once or twice, but since there was a time where I did this repeatedly. But what's interesting is that it's causing me to wonder about if there's not some sort of offer of departure, right, for these non-physical entities at this time. Now, I have not been called to participate in this. Maybe my role is simply to explain the structure. Maybe there are others who, are doing this work now. I can only guess. God bless you for doing it. And when I refer to God, I'm referring to the creator of all that is, the Most High, the creator of the universe, the source of pure unconditional love, just to clarify. So isn't that fascinating? It's fascinating that there are energetic structures, and they have different uses, and one of the uses is to exit the realm. So now let's go back and look again at the Schumann resonance. So now that we understand about the presence of some non-physical entities and that they have an opportunity to exit, before their exit, they're having an adventure here on Earth, is one way of looking at it. Now, it might not be very pleasant for the humans that they engage with, or it might be incredibly helpful. See, the thing is that these things are so hard to judge. Sometimes, when we think of non-physical entities, we think, even when we think of things that are unpleasant or scary, the fact is many times these things assist us in ways that maybe the entity didn't even intend. But it's the perfection of God's will. I mean, it's so amazing to see what can happen in terms of healings. And part of the reason is that sometimes to heal our traumas, we need a reminder. So, who polishes the diamond, right? We think that the detritus on the diamond is the bad stuff. We want that off so that the diamond can shine. Okay, obviously, the diamond is us, right? The diamond is the individual soul in human form. But it requires, right, some type of material to assist in removing the detritus on the diamond. What kind of sandpaper removes rust from metal, from iron, right? The sandpaper is scratchy, it scratches off the rust. But sometimes we require that to even know that the rust is there. Now, I'm just telling this part of the story to say that we can have a judgment and say, I don't like this in my life. But when something negative has happened, what I have found is that the way to recover from it and heal from it is always to find the blessing, And the most amazing thing is how some of these things that I thought were terrible beings ended up providing an experience that caused me to grow. Okay? So it's not always pleasant to go through. It's not. That's just the way it is. Now, one of the ways that these entities may engage with us, all right, separate from the staircase, separate from the process of healing trauma, This is a new point that I want to talk about, and I want to tie it into the previous discussion of offers. One of the ways that they engage with us is they reach out to us. All right. Do you see the little, there's sort of like a little, almost like an image of a little dude here. Okay. Do you see it? There's like a head here, 2 arms, and then you can kind of see legs and then feet here, like a dark blue leg and then a foot here. He's standing on, it's some kind of creature standing on the 20-degree line here, the 20-degree Hertz line that's lit up. So what will happen is they will reach out to us and make an offer. Now, this can be through the energy field of a human being. Sometimes an entity is talking to us through a human being. It can be the human being is quite clever and is wishing to engage us in a way that benefits them. Or it could be in the non-physical. It could also be an offer of programming. For example, advertising is like this, right? Advertising will make you think, oh, I need something, or, oh, my hair is this way, so, I agree with that commercial. I have that kind of hair too, so now I need this product. The offer was, oh, you have, whatever kind of hair, oily hair. So you're going to need that product. Oh, now I have the idea that I have oily hair. Okay, now I'm going to see if that's real for me. And then create buying the product. So those are 4 ways, right? That the offer from entities or programming can, and ultimately from clever people or otherwise, engage with us. All right. So what happens is, all right. So I'm just going to take this little guy here and his offer. Okay, so what'll happen is what the idea is that so here's the guy, and or female, but this one looks male to me. So there's an offer, and the offer, without our understanding, is bringing us down the Hertz range into the unconscious. Now when it's into the unconscious, we're not aware of it anymore, and that's why it's not here, right? Because the human isn't aware of it, right? If this is a map, the human is a map of human consciousness. We're not aware of it. We're only aware of it through the alpha stage here, okay? But it's still there, and this entity understands that it's bringing us into unconscious action. This is the same thing as operating as a manipulative person operating, right? Their own strategy may or may not be in alignment with what's good for us individually. Well, I need this person to do this work for me. Okay, I'm going to bring them down this path of whatever the story is. Sometimes this can go on for years, with someone. And if you've ever been in a relationship with someone who acts like this, you'll know that it is an extremely difficult path to walk. The path of narcissist empath is often like this. But it could also be that there's an entity in the field, and most often using social obligation to engage with us. I have some fun stories about being tricked into engagement by entities working through people doing this, and knowing that they were doing it the whole time. And knowing that I was attempting to not engage and tricking me anyway. Sometimes you just get into that kind of thing where the person you're engaging with understands that you understand who and what they are, or who and what is there with them. And now they're going to attempt to bring you down this path anyway, right? Because now it's a challenge. Oh, she can see me. Okay, now see if I can still get her to do this. Yeah, it's, and the thing is that some people engage with entities in their field because they feel that the entity gives them power. This is very common. It's much more common than we might like to think. Often a person who's engaging with these kind of entities also feels that the entity is protecting them. And very many times it's actually true that they are being protected. Why? Because the entity, that's their human that they have a relationship with, and they don't want anyone else having access to that person's energy, life force, field, etc. Now, are we guided in this by our own soul, by the divine within us? Yes. Can we use the divine to change the nature of these relationships and to establish energetic sovereignty? Absolutely. And in my view, this is the key to spiritual warfare. Is the first thing is to have a relationship with God, to have a relationship through your own soul. In my view, the soul is the living flame of the Creator that we are, right? And so when Jesus said, "This you will do and more," when he spoke to the living people around him and said that they would be able to do what he did, it's because of the living soul inside the human. I am the open door. I am the open door, the portal within the heart. The soul coming through, the choice consciously to align with that divine will, with that divine energy that fuels us, and then to act in the world accordingly. Okay, that is at the basis of spiritual warfare. That is at the basis of becoming energetically sovereign. And please understand when I say that the solution to these negative offers of negative futures that are all up in our faces right now, if you are paying any attention, right? Those can all be defeated by the simple connection within the human being of the living soul. Because none of those futures can be created without the express consent of the living human, whether that consent is conscious or unconscious. Because if I choose not to act, right, it's that same concept where if I choose not to act, then that's a choice. If I choose not to explore the information, that's a choice. If I choose to believe what an authority is telling me, because I've decided that they must know for whatever reasons I think that is, that's a choice. If I wasn't informed, but the information was available, and I chose not to find it or pursue it, that's a choice. Now, if it's been purposely hidden so that I can't find it, well, then how could I find it? The fact is, when I'm in relationship with my own soul, none of that matters. I can receive whatever information I require that's in alignment with my highest good through that living connection, because God within me is omnipresent, the living spark of the soul. And so if it's in alignment with my highest good, to receive answers, information, confirmation, it will come to me because the divine will arrange it for me. If I ask, if I have the intention, if I choose alignment with my highest good, it's more likely to come than not. If I choose alignment with the divine will, and how is the highest good determined? How is divine will determined? By giving it to God and then being in trust and faith over what follows. By reading the signs, by having that inner intuition and listening to it, and then acting on it when you have the intuition to act. So these are very personal processes. There's an overarching structure. There are overarching similar experiences, but every soul is unique. Every living person is unique, and every human is responsible, in my view, is responsible for their own self and their own choices. So yeah, and that's the equal opportunity that we all have here when one chooses to walk the path of the spiritual warrior. It's a new adventure. It's an adventure unto itself. And when we walk that path, okay, and we make the choice to no longer engage with these offers, okay, to going up and down the spectrum of choices and engagement with non-physical entities, with manipulative people, with entities in others' field, with their shadow aspects of people's personalities, with people who actually are manipulative because they represent chaos. They're aligned with that, which is just another way to live. Okay, it's another of God's creations. Then we become the divine light that guides us. We become our own protection because we are human, and then we're in co-creation with the living soul, which takes on more and more presence for us and is our ultimate protection. And so once we establish connection and relationship with God, that's our protection. Once we establish connection, relationship, communion with our living soul consciously, that's our safety. That's our protection. Because what happens when you form this relationship, when you start to really commune with your own soul, which is possible, you come to understand that this part of you that is a living spark of the Creator, that this is eternal, that this part of you that's divine has no beginning and end, that it always is and it always will be, and you will always be remembered, and you are remembered now in this moment. And the delight of your own soul when you come into acknowledgement and relationship is beyond compare. To experience from within the living human form, to experience the delight of God that you have chosen a relationship, it's incomparable. The feeling that in the physical body, when there's that connection, is divine. It's incredible. It has a effect on the living physical form. And so you become your own angel. But really what it is you come into relationship with your higher self, which is the source level higher self, the aspect of the soul closest to you as a living human being. And then you walk the path with yourself. And I think that, for years I pondered this idea of when the self meets the self. I used to read these spiritual texts about, well, when the self meets the self meeting your own self. And I was like, I don't know what that is, okay? But now I've just walked you through one potential understanding of that. Because when you come into this relationship, the divine is there for you one-to-one, and it's personal, and it's for you, and it's precious, it's just for you, and the level of love that exists for you from your own self, that is a representation of your own, that is a representation of your own soul, that is of the living spark of God, the living God. It's incredible. And sometimes we have a spiritual experience where we actually get a sense for a moment of what that is. And then there's having that sense in the field. And these things feel differently because God's realm, right, or the energy of the divine can be so potent that you can't even move. I mean, and it's the sense of, it's not that you can't move, it's just you're in this 0 point where everything is so amazing, so wonderful, so loving, so precious that it's beyond compare. And then that doesn't last very long, at least in my experience. It did not last long at all, because I could barely, I could barely deal with that level of energy. I couldn't walk. Like, I couldn't operate my physical body and like experience that at the same time. It was just so overwhelming. Like, all I wanted to do was focus on it, focus on that amazing connection and the sudden realization that it is there, that is there and available. And in the physical body, we can live with that connection alive. And this specifically is what we talk about in the Human Energy course, in the Human Energy workshop. We talk about what are the mechanics, how does this work? And then we practice, and share experiences of the practice. And then I go over different energy experiences, because, as I said, there are common experiences that you will have. And then cool things come up that we can interpret. So at any rate, this has just been an amazing share today for me to share with you. Just purely talking about energy and the energetic experience. But you see, once we have this experience, right, and we are embodied with a sense of being able to commune with our own soul, being able to pray, right, and get answers, then this whole aspect of this energetic structure, in essence, disappears for the person walking this path of the spiritual warrior. Okay, or the prayer warrior, or being in relationship with God, right, or embodying your own soul. And the thing is that the more of us that come into relationship with that, the less people there are willing to engage with these entities. Because honestly, it's much more fun for me now to engage with my own soul. And that might sound strange, because it's all a process. I learned a lot from moving through the process of, engaging with my past lifetimes, learning from them, engaging with the sources of my own trauma, right? And that was very, very engaging for some period of time. But when you come into a relationship with God, like I thought from back then, right, when I was deep in the healing of these things, I thought that relationship with, this is going to sound weird, I thought that relationship with God would be boring, right? Oh, just all this, it must be just all this goody two-shoes stuff. It's so much more fun to have adventures, out in the world or in different lifetimes and all this stuff. That's what I thought, right? Because I was so, in a way, lost in that, because I didn't understand the greater picture that I could come back to a relationship with my soul, and that was even possible. But over time, as those things became healed, what happens is the opportunity to be in relationship with yourself expands. Because as those things leave the field, you fill yourself up with your own light. And it's a whole new adventure. And it is so worth pursuing. And the more of us that do this, the more of these entities are going to want to leave. And they're going to want to leave because now it's boring for them. Oh, we're not engaging anymore. We're not helping you build your crazy ass future is what words came to me there. Your crazy ass future. Okay, nope, not going to do that. I'm not going to put my energy into that. I choose differently. I choose in alignment with my own soul. And the fact is that even if it comes to interacting or dealing with advanced technology, it's the same process. This same awakening process, the same idea of communing with your own soul defeats those futures as well that are negative. And actually, I think they've already been defeated, but perhaps that's just me. So, and we come into a possibility of a different outcome, a different relationship, a relationship that's positive, maybe, a relationship that is something that can be learned from, because the idea of connecting with one's own soul, it's pretty unique, and it's pretty fascinating. And as far as I'm concerned, it's what's happening on this world. It's where the juice is. It's what everyone truly wants, that they're ultimately longing for, the love that you're longing for, the action, the activity, the results, the outcomes, all come from understanding that a relationship is possible, pursuing it, living the adventure.